Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Small Steps for Big Impact. We're so happy to have you with us here today. My name is Carrie Norquay, and I work as a Program and Services Coordinator here at Parkinson Canada, and I am happy to be moderating today's webinar. We are thrilled to have such a great large audience with us. We have people joining us from coast to coast, as well as the United States and abroad. So please, wherever you're joining us from, welcome to the webinar. I also want to let everyone know that we do have the chat room option open for the live webinar. Our colleague Donna Greening will be moderating that. So please feel free to use the chat room button. You can put in your name, where you're joining us from. If you have a feedback or some questions during our live webinar, Donna will be answering those, and we encourage you to use that for a more interactive experience. We are just so excited to have you here today, and we're really excited to welcome some pretty incredible guest speakers with us today. We're really hoping that when you hear their journeys and their experiences, that you might also be inspired in your own life living well with Parkinson's. So without further ado, I think we all would love to get this webinar started. So I'm so excited to start the webinar with our first guest.
So I'm so excited to introduce one of our guests today. Charlene LeBlanc is joining us from Notre Dame, New Brunswick. And welcome, Charlene. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So I'm hoping maybe you can just start, Charlene, by sharing a bit about your diagnosis, when that happened, and sort of what came about.
Certainly. I am 49 now. I was diagnosed in 2017. Like most, when we found out, it was a little bit of a shock. It was basically a new normal, so we had to figure out how we were going to manage with it. But I have an amazing family, an amazing daughter, amazing husband, and my support system is incredible. We allow ourselves to have I say we, because when I got Parkinson's, no matter what the way we look at it, my family got Parkinson's too. So we allow ourselves our pity party when anytime a new symptom or something new comes out. I get it out of my system and then put on my big girl pants and keep on going. We decided that, I decided that if there's anything that I wanted to do, there's no time like the present to start doing it. So, yeah.
That is pretty incredible. And I obviously, just from looking at you, I know that you are living with young onset Parkinson's. And in terms of symptoms, how does Parkinson's most affect you, Charlene?
Well, I do have, like most people, I do have tremors on my left side. I also do have some tremors with my jaw, but what mostly affects me is my eyes. I have, it's affecting my vision. I'm actually going to start eye therapy. They're trying to figure out what they can do. But that's the most, concerning thing I would say about the issues that we have, like with my eyes. That's the main thing, the main focus, because it's hard to, if I don't have my eyes, it'll be hard to do anything actually. So
thank you. And I think everyone in the audience, I'm sure, is looking at you, but also what's behind you, because you have some beautiful artwork displayed behind you. And I think that's really an important thing that I'm hoping you can share today. So just for our audience to know, this is just a few of the hundreds of paintings that Charlene has done over this last bit. And really, that's what this webinar is about. I know, we're talking about small steps for big impact, and you've shared with me, I know personally, just how much this artwork and being creative and artistic has meant to your ability really to cope with the diagnosis of Parkinson's and just to continue to live well with the disease. So I'm hoping, Charlene, you can walk us through a bit on how this started and where you're going with this.
Certainly. Well, when I first got diagnosed, like I always like to draw and stuff like that. Then I'd say when I get older, I'll start painting, or because I did a few, but I wasn't. It wasn't on a regular basis. But when I did get diagnosed, I was looking for something that I could get a release, something to just to clear my mind, if you want. And so I started painting, and I realized that I was not bad at it. So I started painting with the encouragement of my friends and my family. So like you can see in the back, it's I've done quite a few. When I paint, I don't have Parkinson's. I'm just painting. It's to me, it's not the end result. It's the like the road there. It's when I paint, it's just me with my brush and the canvas, and everything else is zoned out. So it's therapeutic. It's because I can zone out, and at that point there, even though if I have pain or whatever, when I'm painting, it's therapeutic. That's my way to relax, to zone out, and to put everything aside. So yeah, so it's been, I've had so many paintings. My office is full, my husband's office is full, all the walls in the house. So my daughter, which is my angel, she suggested creating a Facebook page so I could raise money for Parkinson's, because I do have my super walk team. I call them my Charlie's Angels. And so what we did is she created a page, and I posted the paintings on the page, and that way there all the money raised goes to support our super walk team. So it's a win-win for us and for Parkinson's. So
that is amazing. And I know, Charlene, you've got quite a great Super Walk team, Charlie's Angels. And just for our audience to know, in our follow-up email that I send out after the webinar is over, I will make sure to include the link for it's Charlie LeBlanc's Painting for Parkinson's on Facebook. So I'll include that link so everyone gets a chance to kind of go and check out your gallery. And obviously, it's all for a great cause with Super Walk. So thank you. I'm wondering, Charlene, I know you made a little reference. Like if I'm speaking personally, I know I am not very artistic. So I can appreciate that some in our audience might think, you know, I've never painted before, or I don't have a creative bone in my body. I'm wondering if you have any type of encouragement or, you know, just some words of like just to try it, right? Because it's, you know, not all of us are as talented as you. And just for those that are maybe looking to start trying something new, could you just maybe?
Sure. It's not like when I first started, it to me, it's not the end results, which today it's fine. Like I can raise money with my paintings. That's fine. But the most important thing is not the end result. It's the progress to get there. So if you want to, I don't know, paint rocks, if you want to knit, it's the time that you spend doing it and zoning out, and it's like I call it therapy. What you can zone out and do what you can relax, and you can get yourself lost in the process. That's the important part. What it looks like at the end, that's not important. As long as the road to or the steps that you take to get there, that's the important part. Like I said, you can paint rocks, you can knit. Some people like to make signs or anything at all. It's just it's for you to get there. It doesn't matter what it looks like at the end. It's the time that you get to relax and basically just enjoy being yourself, because on that day, it's a good day because you can do it. Tomorrow is a different day. So every day is a new day, and you have to basically, like a day that I wake up and I'm able to move my hands and do and see is a good day. So that's the way I look at it, and I'm assuming if everybody took a little part of that and just try, you might not be good at it, but you might have fun making it. That's the important thing.
I think there's some wonderful lessons in there, Charlene, and I really appreciate that. I'm wondering, I know some days you probably wake up and you think, today's the day I'm going to create some art. And I can appreciate there's probably some days when you wake up and you say, ugh, like I just don't feel great today, or my symptoms seem to be a little worse today, or I just don't have the motivation. Do you find something in your own life? How do you keep yourself motivated? Like, when that little voice is saying today is not the day, is there something that you think of or practice to maybe push yourself through to try something?
Well, I'm one of those weird positive people. So I always try to see the good in everything. Like even when I got diagnosed, people were saying, "Well, why you?" And I was saying, "Well, why not me? If I don't get it, who do I give it to?" So that's the way I look at things. So there are some days that like I'll try to paint, and all of a sudden, like I'll just like it doesn't work. So what I'll do at that point there, I'll try to store my paintings or rearrange everything. I still try to do something that will get my mind off, or that I get that time to zone out, if you want. So because it's not, every day is not a good day. I mean, anyone that has Parkinson's knows that, but I try to do the best that I can on those days and know that they're not all going to be bad days. So I take the good and the bad, and on the bad, I try to basically make the best of it. So, yeah.
I have always admired your optimism, and I really appreciate that, Charlene. And before we finish up, I was wondering if you could maybe just talk a little bit about, I know I can see quite a few lovely portraits behind you, but maybe a little bit about what your favorite things are to paint, or where you get your inspiration, or just a little bit about the artwork itself.
Usually, like me, I paint a little bit of everything. Like you can see there. Things that I like. So anybody that knows me knows that I love Elvis Presley. So I have pictures of paintings of Elvis Presley. I have painting a little bit of everywhere. I do some portraits, and most of the time it's just a matter of looking outside, or someone sending me a picture and saying, "Would you mind painting this for me?" Because a lot of the paintings that I do now are a lot of people that are asking me to do specific things. But more than that, it's just a matter of how I feel. If I feel like doing something, a painting of nature, I'll do nature. I'll do abstracts on my days, not worse days, but days that I'm not as agile, I'll do more abstract. But yeah, I do pretty much anything. And to say that what motivates me, there's one day I didn't know what to paint, and someone put the church in our community on their Facebook, and I looked at it and said, "Hey, why not?" So I painted the church. So my painting is from one end to the other. So it's not whatever pops in mind.
I love it. I just, and I know where you live in New Brunswick, there's some beautiful landscapes. So I'm sure it's never short of scenic things to paint. I just really want to say thank you for just sharing where you get your inspiration and your motivation, and just what painting has meant to you, and how cathartic and therapeutic that ability to zone out, and just the encouragement to the audience just to pick up something artistic and just try from where you are now. And what I think a lot of people might be surprised. I think a lot of artists don't know they're artists until they try, right? And so
I did.
There you go. Wonderful. So thank you so much. We just really appreciate you sharing your experiences. And I'm going to send out the link to Charlene's Facebook page. And I encourage everyone to have a look at her gallery. And I can't wait to see what you paint next. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks again, Charlene. And I know with our audience, those that registered for the webinar, you were given an opportunity to share some of the small steps you're making in your own lives, wherever you're at. And I was, first of all, just so thankful that so many shared some pretty incredible stories. And so I'd just like to take a few minutes just to share a few from our audience before we go to our next guest. So Linda from Brandon, Manitoba shared, I practice Tai Chi daily. It is relaxing and I feel better inside and out when I do it. If I miss a day, my body feels the difference. It's great for balance, strength, memory, and for general well-being. Thank you, Linda. We heard from Sylvia in New Westminster, BC. She shared that exercise has been her small change. Helene from Baldwin, New York shared, make new friendships with people who have a positive outlook and stay away from people who are always complaining about their health or gossiping about others. Take the time in your daily schedule to enjoy whatever makes you happy, even the smallest things. Now that the weather is mild, I enjoy hearing and seeing the birds when I wake up. That sounds lovely, Helene. Doug from Winnipeg, Manitoba shared, I am constantly looking for small steps to improve my life. My mantra is accept, adapt, evolve. We cannot move forward without accepting or acknowledging where we are, then adapting our available resources to accommodate our circumstances. When the changes we make become a part of ourselves, we have evolved from the experience and become stronger and more confident. That was really touching, Doug. Thank you. George from Hudson, Quebec shared, I have found that doing exercises in my swimming pool really helps with decreasing the tremors in my hands. Rod from Thunder Bay, Ontario shared, I bought an e-bike and it encourages me to get out. I have increased my walking program. I talk long distance to a friend who lives with PD every day for mutual encouragement. I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you, Rod. Betty from Swift Current, Saskatchewan shared, I've lost my voice and my ability to walk. Both are very hard to cope with, but I was asked to be the choir director here at the Meadows and accepted the challenge. Now I can speak just over a whisper. Yay. Wonderful job, Betty, and thank you for sharing. And lastly, I'm going to share at this moment is from Bonnie from Toronto, Ontario. I have a nap every afternoon, which helps a lot with the fatigue of PD. A small thing, but it really helps me to get through the rest of the day. Thank you to all for sharing that, and I hope some of those pieces of advice resonated with our audience, and I'm sure to share a few more as we continue on with our webinar. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next guest, Jacques Seguin, who is going to be joining us from Ottawa today.
And thanks again, Jacques. We're so happy to have you with us today.
My pleasure.
I'm hoping maybe, Jacques, you can start by just sharing a little bit about where your journey with Parkinson's began.
Okay. I was diagnosed at the age of 51. I'm 69 now. And that was in 2003. I was diagnosed. I realized I had Parkinson's the first day that I went to work for my new job as superintendent of education. And my foot was, I had cramp in my leg. And when I crossed my leg, my foot would start trembling. And then I noticed all kinds of things. And it led to a diagnosis of Parkinson's. The doctors took a test of my brain and to see if there was any tumors, and also my spinal cord to see if there was any tumors. So there was nothing in that. So they processed by elimination, and finally I went to see a neurologist, and it was diagnosed. She said, some people it's hard to diagnose, others it's easy. For you, it's straightforward. You have Parkinson's, you have to learn to live with it. So you need a job that is not far from your home, a job that doesn't have too much responsibility and no stress. So I, 1, 2, 3 strike. I had a job with a lot of responsibility, a lot of stress, and I lived 60 kilometers from my home. That's where I work. So after 1 year, my body just went on strike and it stopped working. So I had to stop working also. I couldn't cross the street. I was so weak. My neurologist explained to me that I'm like a long distance runner who's looking for a second wind, but I start the day with my second wind. So no matter what I do, I have to tell my body what to do. So it's a lot of energy spent. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Jacques, for that. So I know we had talked a little bit before this, and you had mentioned that when you were diagnosed, you weren't able to do a ton of physical activity. What we're hoping to share is, the title of this webinar is Small Steps for Big Impact. And I know you shared a really very impactful story with me of how you started to incorporate that exercise into your life in small steps.
Okay, I was very lucky because my wife got a job in Toronto, and she was with the Ministry of Education. So we went to live in Toronto, and we lived there for 4 years. And in our building in Toronto, there was a racquetball court. So I went in, I got a racket and a ball. I went to the racquetball court. I walked in there very confidently. I was very confident that it would work out. After 5 minutes, I was dead beat. I went to my room and I cried like a baby. And I promised myself I'd never set foot in another court again. Next day, I was there for 6 minutes, then 10, then 12, then 13, then 15, until I could do an hour's workout really well. So it took me about 5 years to get back into shape, but it was really a pleasant journey. Racquetball is a sport where there's a ball, there's 4 walls, so the ball never goes far. And when I hit the ball on the wall, after about 10 minutes in my warm-up, I felt as if Parkinson was evaporating my body. And I'd be back to my good old self again. So I played racquetball with people who do not have Parkinson. I introduced people with Parkinson to racquetball. And I made up games. I played my right hand against my left hand. I didn't like my left hand to win too much. But anyways, I played against myself. So everyone that came to visit us in Toronto had to bring their running shoes because I had 2 rackets and we'd play. So that was a small step that I took. It's a good thing that I am hard-headed because when I want something, I really go for it. So that's small steps that I took to. So after that, I did some videos on Parkinson and racquetball, and I did some training for racquetball players that have Parkinson. And also, I tried boxing. I tried physiotherapy. I tried a lot of things. And what I find is, no matter what it is you do, if you do it with passion, then it'll work out for you. So I decided not to be a victim. I decided to be, because Parkinson took a lot of stuff away from me. It took away my autonomy, my work, all kinds of things. But it also gave me one factor, which is very important. It gave me time. Time to take care of my wife, because she doesn't have Parkinson, but she lives with Parkinson. So it's important for me to take care of her. Time to take care of my children. I have 4 daughters. Time to take care of my grandchildren. I have 7 grandchildren now. So they all have their ball, their racket, and their safety glasses. So racquetball has been a very important part of my life. And through racquetball, I sort of give back to society what the good things that society gave me. So I now have 3 full-time jobs. Taking care of myself is a full-time job. Taking care of my wife and my grandchildren is a full-time job. And then I've become a full-time job of making souvenirs in my grandchildren's head. I have a grandfather that has Parkinson but doesn't lay down. I have Parkinson, but I won't give up. So I want to give this image to my children and my grandchildren.
That is wonderful, Jacques. And I know, I think it would be safe to say probably that your grandchildren are a big motivation for you to stay healthy and active. And what really resonated with me was just, you know, when you started on your journey, when you shared that you were only able to do 5 minutes and then you went to your room and cried and said, I'm never doing it again. And for some people, they may have stopped, right? But the fact that every day you went back and you increased it by a minute or two, just that perseverance is incredible.
I think we are influenced by our childhood. During my childhood, I had the grandparents that were sick. So whenever I go see my maternal grandmother, she was lying in a bed. We had to kiss her to say hello, and we had to kiss her to say goodbye. My grandfather was an old man with a mustache and a pipe near in his chair. And my paternal grandparents, I remember my grandmother was a corpulent person. She was a big person. And she would shout at the top of the stairs, don't throw my potatoes. We'd steal potatoes from the garden and we'd use it as balls. And my paternal grandfather died after his wife died. He couldn't go on living. He just melted away. So I didn't want that souvenir to be my grandchildren's souvenir. That's why I decided to work on this. And also, I had a very close friend of our family who had a cancer, and she wouldn't talk about it. It was a taboo subject. So I decided when I got Parkinson that I would talk about it, and that my grandchildren would have good memories of me as a person, not as a Parkinson person, but as a person first of all.
I think that's a beautiful gift you're giving your grandkids, Jacques. That's lovely. And I know you mentioned racquetball, and I've actually seen a video of you playing racquetball, and might I say you are very talented. I'm sure I wouldn't stand a chance against you. And I know you mentioned with COVID, things have changed everything. And you picked up sort of a new sport while the racquetball wasn't available. And I'm hoping if you could maybe share with the audience.
On the tennis court, we can change the lines and make a pickleball game. Pickleball is a wooden racket with a corrugated ball with holes in it, and we play it like badminton. So it's fun. It's outside, and pickleball is getting to be more and more a favorite sport for people, for elderly people, and so people with Parkinson can fit into the elderly people. So I tried boxing and I tried pickleball, and with the virus, all the gyms are closed in this, and the tennis courts are closed. So my daughter gave me a gift. She gave me a bouncing ball, a boxing ball. I'll show you what it is. It's a ball with an elastic and a headband. So I put the headband on, and I can get the ball.
That is amazing. Oh my goodness.
That keeps me occupied.
Wow. And maybe we'll do a link. That is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So my daughter gave me that, and it's a lot of fun. And it warms me up for other exercise. I do exercise on the net, and I walk. I walk between 8 and 10 kilometers a day because walking is good for me, and I don't have anything else to do. So what I do that. One of the things that was very important in my Parkinson life is that one day I was sitting in a shopping mall, and I noticed 2 old people that were walking hand in hand. And I realized I was jealous of them. That was in my second year. I was jealous of them. And I realized, hey, what's going on? You have to get under control. So I invented my 5 minutes, where 5 minutes a month, I can go in my room, I can cry, I can be angry. I can be angry at you because you're pretty. I can be angry at someone else because they're in health. And I can be jealous and not feel guilty about it. After 5 minutes, I roll this in a small ball, and I throw it away as far as I can. Then I'm done for the month. So if I skip a month, it's non-cumulative. If I skip a month, that's too bad. And I skip several months now. But that was in my first 2 years, and it really helped me to get my emotions under control. Instead of denying my emotions, I built them up.
Wow, I think that is really some incredible advice, and I really like that 5 minute a month
Yeah.
visual, Jacques. I think that's amazing. I know before you had shared, you sort of have a personal motto. You shared your passions, determinations, and hard work define you.
Yes.
And
I
I think you are showing us that just in everything that you're sharing.
Well, what you have to do is you have to find something you like. And it can be something you've tried before or something you've never tried before. And you go ahead and you do it, and you do it again, and you do it again. And it helps to develop, because it opens up the world to you. One thing that you must not do as a Parkinsonian person is to shut down and send the people away from you. You have to, with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, you have to be in there and not allow yourself to be pushed around or to be stamped on. So your passion, your hard work is what defines you.
Wonderful. And for our audience today, I'm sure some of our audience maybe already play racquetball or pickleball or participate in boxing or go for a daily walk. I'm wondering, for those that have found this past year and a half, it's been challenging to do those exercises that we were doing before the pandemic. Do you have any words of encouragement for those that have maybe either never started or have gotten away from incorporating that exercise every day? Do you have any words of encouragement to reach our audience where they're at today? Because they might not already be exercising.
Okay, well, if you're not exercising, you can start by doing your bed in the morning. At least you've done something during your day. So that's to start off with. And take care of your spouse. Because, for example, if your spouse says, I have to get my hair done, tell her, get your hair and your nails done. I won't be far. I'll be in my chair here, or I'll be on the floor when you come back, but I won't be far. And I think that is important. This aspect of not being a victim, being active, whether it's piano, bingo, reading, writing. For example, Parkinson gave me time to write. I wrote stories for my grandchildren. I wrote songs with my grandchildren's name in it. I wrote a novel. So, and it keeps me occupied, and it makes me feel, helping others makes me feel good. So it makes me feel useful, because at one time I thought I was useless. I can't work. My family has to take care of me and all that. And then I change it around. And that's mind power. It's just being, in French, it's une tête de cochon, which is hard-headed person, and you really want to do something and you go and do it. For example, when I got married, I was always taking the big oh, forget it. It's a valise in English. When I got married, I always had the heavy luggage. I would carry the heavy luggage, and my wife would carry the other luggage. So at one point, I couldn't drive. I was really, really down. So she took the big luggage, and I worked really hard in order to take back the big luggage. It's a bit ridiculous, but to me, taking back the big luggage was a sign of autonomy, and that was that was something.
That's really nice. And it sounds like, I mean, Jacques, you sound incredible. You've tried many different sports and so many different activities. And it seems like for you, these being physically active and taking that step has really given your life purpose and direction and focus. And I really applaud you for that. And I know you mentioned about that you were a writer, and I want our audience to know that I think you were being a little humble, but Jacques is actually a published author. He wrote a novel called Fictional Science, and actually one of the main characters in this book lives with Parkinson's. So for our audience, I just want you to know that in my follow-up email after the webinar, I'm going to attach a link. So if anyone wants to check out this novel that Jacques wrote, you'll be able to find that link there, because I think that's pretty phenomenal. So thank you again, Jacques, for just a wonderful chat. I feel like I could talk to you forever. So I really appreciate all your insight and your stories, and just being open to the audience. I'm sure I'm not the only one here in the audience thinking, wow, you've got some really incredible things going on in your life, and you're choosing to write your own story, and you're an author at that. So I just really appreciate you taking the time today, and just keep trucking.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jacques.
Bye.
Great. Thank you again, Jacques. And I'm just going to take a few moments just to share a few more stories from our audience. Jim from St. Catharines, Ontario shared with us, "My wife and I recognize the importance of getting out and continuing to feel a part of the bigger world, despite the fact that I often feel little energy. So we pack up our lawn chairs, pack a picnic, our reading material, and go and sit by the lake or in the woods. Watching others playing, walking, and boating brings us lots of joy. Seeing all the dogs and wildlife around us is equally enjoyable. It also gives us the opportunity to reminisce about the joyful times we had." Thank you, Jim. That was lovely. Margaret from Fredericton, New Brunswick shares, "One really good activity is line dancing. It is good for memory, coordination, cardio workout, and is a social activity. I also make a concerted effort to exercise regularly unless I'm sick. Sometimes I forget I have Parkinson's. I am fortunate that my symptoms thus far, after 5 years, sometimes permit me to forget. I have also picked up violin lessons again. I hadn't played for the past 50 years. This is good for fine motor control." Wonderful. Thank you very much, Margaret, for sharing that. Hillary from Belleville, Ontario. "When tackling physically challenging projects, I have learned to take a rest in between and not see that as a weakness, but as a way of gathering my strength." I love that, Hillary. Keith from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan says, "Taking online yoga. It helps my flexibility, anxiety, and circulation. And it's very convenient to not have to leave home. We are sent a recording of the class, which is good for 1 week, and the instructors are very knowledgeable and pleasant. It is all in all a good experience." That's wonderful. Barbara from London, Ontario shared, "I started walking more in the hallways of my retirement home. I'm using the Conquerors app as an incentive to keep moving. I'm using a walker and use the pedometer app on my phone to track my steps." Keep walking, Barbara. That's wonderful. Lydia from Miramichi, New Brunswick shared, "Over the past 6 years, I walked with poles and now find that they help to give me the extra support with my balance that is sometimes off. Since my husband retired last fall, he walks with me, which makes me feel more secure." Jennifer from Oakville, Ontario shared, "Daily, no matter what, I exercise via Zoom. I always feel better physically and emotionally." And my last story I'm going to share is from Lois in Annagants, New Brunswick. Lois shared, "I always have a project planned ahead to pull me through on the days when it is tough to break through the barrier, and there is almost always a barrier of symptoms. These come from a list of hobbies and usually have to do with the betterment of the house or property. For example, when COVID-19 began and we locked down, I covered 2 chairs and painted the bathroom. Winter number 2 of COVID, I removed wallpaper and painted the guest room. This spring and summer, I've been working hard at gardening. It took a very long time to work up energy, but I finally did. The heat is difficult to work through, so drinking lots of water is essential. The body does growl back, but overall, it is good for me physically and mentally." Thank you, Lois, for that. That is some wonderful stories. I appreciate everyone being so open and sharing. And we'll keep our webinar going here. So our next guest on this webinar is Fran Edwards, and Fran is joining us today from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
So thank you again so much, Fran, for joining us today. We're so excited to have you. And I'm just hoping maybe we can start off with you sharing a little bit about how your journey started with Parkinson's when you were diagnosed and what was going on with in your life at that time.
Okay, when I was diagnosed, I'd been retired about 7.5 years, and I found I had a tremor I didn't like, so I went to see the doctor. He diagnosed me. I was 67 years old. Yeah, 67. So that's 7.5 years ago, and I thought I knew everything about Parkinson's because I'd been a nurse for like 30 years, most of that in rehab and geriatrics. And I found I did not know half of what I thought I knew, not even close to half. So I've learned a lot in the past 7 years or so. And yeah, it's been a journey. I found that I'd have to, my first question actually was, so how long before I have to move into a nursing home, sell my house and move into a nursing home? And he said, if you stay active physically, socially, and mentally, he said you could probably last another 20 years. So I have 20 more years.
That's some great feedback. And I know we had chatted a bit ago, and you had said that being a nurse, obviously you had a very active, you were on your feet probably all day for your shifts, but you shared that you weren't really into formal exercise that much. And then something shifted shortly after diagnosis where you started yoga. I'm hoping you can maybe share with the group a little bit about
Well, I've been into the Parkinson's office and met the staff there, and one of them had suggested yoga. Now, if you'd have said I'd been doing yoga 10 years ago, I'd have laughed at you. But I started a chair yoga class, and I have found it's made a tremendous difference. It's to my balance, to my attitude. I don't worry about things as much as I used to. I've learned yoga breath, which is extremely important in balance and core strength. And I love it. I would not change that. Yeah, well, you can't change what's past. You can only learn to live with your new normal. So I'm working on a new normal and that changes every day. The changes, well, I haven't changed so much. I used to crochet and knit all the time, and now I've got a mission to crochet an Afghan for each one of my 9 grandchildren. But the yoga is I would be an advocate for yoga for sure, chair yoga for sure, for balance. And people my age and even my size, I'm not a small person, never have been. Yeah, I don't know what else I could tell you about yoga except that it's my go-to thing.
And you mentioned chair yoga, which I think for our audience, sometimes the vision of yoga is sort of doing all these poses that look very challenging. So I like that you talked about chair yoga. Could you tell a little bit about
chair
that?
yoga is much the same as regular yoga. You do a lot of the same poses. My yogi is also a physiotherapist, so she incorporates physiotherapy exercises in there too. But we do stretching, and it's all adapted to sitting in a chair or standing with the chair for support. You don't have to get out of the chair. There's a lot of YouTube videos, out there for people who are interested in chair yoga. And I think, well, I like to think mine's the best, but Adrian, thank you. And let's see, what else can I tell you about chair yoga? The breath is extremely important. I found that breathing helps me relax and concentrate and brings me back to where I should be, mindfulness and meditation. And it makes me more aware of what I am doing with everything else that I do. I stop and I think about getting up before I get up and whether I'm going to take a header onto the floor, which I did the other day. And it keeps me centered, and I stop and think. When I go to get up, I stop and I go, okay, I'm going to stand up now. Am I going to be dizzy? Because dizzy and low blood pressure, another thing of Parkinson's, which many of you will already know. I could go on and on about yoga, but I think I'm repeating myself here.
No, I love that. And I love how, I know you talked about it helping with your core strength and your balance. And just the idea that it's kind of centering you to focus on the activity you're doing at that moment. So whether it's getting out of bed or getting up from a chair, being purposeful in your actions to prevent things like falling, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And do you notice, for a benefit, I know you mentioned you had some stairs in your home. Fran, and
Yes,
have you noticed, with that yoga and that strengthening, is that keeping you, active enough to be able to manage the stairs and things at home?
I can still manage the stairs. I'm way slower than I used to be, but I'm retired. So what's the rush? I think the thing that really aggravated me at first is that I slowed down so much, and I know that there's nothing like. So you're slower. What difference does it make? It's going to get done. If it doesn't get done today, it'll get done tomorrow. And that's where my attitude has gone now. It's like, if I can't get it done now, then I'll wait till I can get it done. It's the stairs have been a challenge, but I've managed them, and I plan on staying here. They may have to drag me out kicking and screaming, or dead, one way or the other. But I'm hoping to stay here for at least another 20 years.
I think that's a wonderful.
That's my plan.
That's a great.
And positive thinking has helped. I've read the 5 Secrets and a few other positivity books, and I'm finding that positive thinking really works. So I try not to say anything negative.
That's wonderful. And I know you shared a quote one time with me, and it said, "Everybody can do something. Do what you can and push yourself a little more every day."
Yes,
Could
and
you
that's
expand on that?
That's something that my yoga teacher, she pushes us. Some of the chair yoga classes I've watched on YouTube they're very, very mild, and that's good for people who are just starting. But she pushes us. She said, if you can't do it, don't. But try when you're feeling good to push yourself just a little bit more. And yeah, I do. I only go to do one Zoom yoga class a week, but I try to do a little bit of yoga every day, even if it's just sitting and doing the breath exercises.
That's wonderful. And for our audience, again, we'll include some of those resources that Fran is talking about in the follow-up email. And I know a moment ago, Fran, you alluded to the fact that you enjoy knitting and crocheting. Mm-hmm. And I know probably some of us in the audience here maybe are already doing it, or had done it, or maybe looking to do it again. And I know you shared about how it's really helped with your tremors as well as writing.
It helps steady. If I'm hanging on to the needle, I prefer crocheting right now. If I'm hanging on to the needle, I find it steadies my hand more. It's like, I believe I've heard it referred to before. If you're hanging on to something, your hand does not tremor as much. And it's also helped with my writing, because before I was diagnosed, I noticed my writing all going squiggly off to nothing, where I didn't even know what I had written. And I did a calligraphy class years ago, so I started doing that again, plus the knitting and stuff. And it's really helped so that I can write like I used to. And I had a little bit of a passion about writing neatly. I had a grade 4 teacher who had beautiful writing. And I aspired to be just like her. I never got there, but I had decent writing, and the calligraphy and the knitting and crocheting have helped steady my hand, so I'm not forever shaking. You know that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it seems like, Fran, you've taken a lot of little steps, whether it's the yoga or the knitting or crocheting. And I've heard from a few folks that you also have a green thumb, and that you've done some gardening. Could you?
I have a small yard, and that's another reason I don't want to move. I love my little yard. I've got planter boxes, and I like tomatoes and cucumbers, and flowers are what I mostly grow. And I love to sit out there in the morning with my coffee. I'm missing it this morning because of this, And I like to sit out there with my coffee in the morning and then poke at my flowers and water them and talk to them.
That's lovely. Do you find it therapeutic when you're using your hands?
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
It's very relaxing.
That is wonderful. And I guess for our audience members today, those that are, wanting to make a change, yet I know it can be overwhelming just to take that first initial step. Yes. Do you have any words of encouragement to those folks listening?
I think I would say you can't change the past, or you can't change what's happened, but you can learn to live with your new normal every day. It's a new normal, but you can learn to live with that. And then my other little thing that I like to tell people is to live, love, and laugh. is
I
what
love
else is there.
That's beautiful, Fran. I think you are a motivated individual. I think you've given everyone some really interesting examples of way people can make small steps in their own lives for big impact and big improvement. So I just want to say thank you for sharing with us. I won't keep you too long so that you can get back to enjoying some coffee in your garden. But thank you, Fran, so much.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you again, Fran. And it's my pleasure to introduce our final guest speaker today. Kelly Williams is a clinical resource nurse for the Movement Disorder Clinic at Deer Lodge Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba. We are absolutely thrilled to have Kelly with us today. And Kelly, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Again, my name is Kelly. I am the clinical resource nurse at the Movement Disorder Clinic in Winnipeg. So I'm going to just start a screen. What we're really going to talk about are kind of those small steps that make real big changes. Parkinson's is a challenging journey with many big changes that can happen throughout our lives. Research show that when you have good general health, your Parkinson's symptoms will improve and actually slow down the progression of the disease. So it makes a big difference in our lives. Like, for example, exercise. We know that exercise can improve the quality of your life for longer. So it's recommended that all people with Parkinson's become an athlete. But how do we get there, right? Some research has noted that when you do vigorous exercise, cardiovascular exercise for 180 minutes a week, that will slow the disease down, leading to a better quality of life. Another study showed that on a day-to-day basis, people with Parkinson's who exercised more, moved more normally, and then those who did not. Another study showed that when people with Parkinson's pedaled on a stationary bike for 30% faster than their preferred voluntary rate, they actually gained aerobic fitness, showed improvements in the motor function and coordination, as well as their manual dexterity. This improvement was actually retained for weeks after the exercise stopped. And yet another study showed that exercise may help the brain to maintain old connections, form new ones, restore lost ones. They suggest that in certain situations, neuroplasticity that is created from exercise in people with Parkinson's may actually outweigh the effects of neurodegeneration. So no doubt about it, exercise helps, as does a good healthy eating, adequate hydration, good sleep. All these different things really do help on that day-to-day basis living with Parkinson's. But not all of us are at that level who can exercise vigorously for 180 minutes a week or do 30 minutes on a bike at top speed. And when a task seems insurmountable, it's really difficult to get to the point where we want to or need to be. And how do all these studies actually translate in that day-to-day person who is not an athlete yet, right? By taking smaller steps. Each small step really helps you get to the destination you want to be. And so how do you move that mountain, right? By moving one small rock at a time. So let's break it down to some things that we can do. Let's stick with those first set of numbers of that 180 minutes of cardiovascular exercise each week. It's a bit more tangible to kind of work with, but that equals 1 hour, 3 days a week, right? Or it could be 30 minutes, 6 days a week, or it could even be 10 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day. You can break it down to what works for you. And even if that goal seems a little lofty for some, there are ways to break it down even further, okay? Because otherwise I'm going to be spending a heck of a lot of time at the gym. Anyway, the whole point of any exercise is to challenge your body, okay? And when you challenge your body, you're actually protecting your brain and slowing the progression of the disease. The idea is, what is a challenge for you? For some, yes, it is a triathlon, okay? For some, it is running the marathon. For some, it is swimming the length of the lake. But for some, it's getting out of bed and getting to the bathroom. And that is the challenge. But so the point is that what is that challenge for you? And when you challenge your body and you practice that challenge over and over, you're protecting your brain and slowing the progression of the disease. So honestly, that is the biggest secret to any point of exercise for Parkinson's. Challenge your body, okay? And it takes these small steps to kind of get there with that challenge. Everybody has to start somewhere. And for those who can't do this, those who can do that triathlon, for those who can swim the length of the lake, keep it up. All right, you're doing really, really great, and you're doing wonderful things for yourself. But for those who need to kind of get there, let's try and work at getting there together. First things first, walk. Walk every day, 10 minutes to start, or even 5 minutes. If you're able and it's safe, start there. Pay attention to your walking. Make sure your back is straight, your head is up, your arms are pumping as you're walking, you're lifting your legs, you're increasing that length of stride, conscientiously paying attention to your body as you're walking, so that when you're not paying attention, your body actually will do it a little bit more naturally. Okay? Now, every week, try and increase it by a little bit. So if you can only do 10 minutes this week, 10 minutes a day, 3 days a week this week, try 12 minutes a day next week. Try 15 minutes a day the week after. Try 15 minutes a day for 4 days a week, the week after that. It's just increasing it by small amounts. And in 1 month, you're all of a sudden doing 20 minutes every day. And in another 2 months, you can be doing 45 to an hour every day comfortably. Now that's honestly an achievement by just taking one small step at a time. I also need you to stretch every day. Okay, when your body is warm, so that after you walk, you do your stretching. The way, if we keep stretching every day, we're keeping our muscles loose and limber, trying to prevent injury and maintain that full range of motion throughout the years of your journey. Now, the cardiovascular. Now, this is the hard stuff. This is where you're going to get your heart rate up, breathing heavy and sweating, okay? This is what's going to really impact the trajectory of your disease. What you do is entirely up to you. Do what you will enjoy, okay? If it's pickleball, if it's tennis, if it's swimming, if it's running, cycling, it doesn't matter, okay? So every movement is exercise with that. How do you start? Honestly, depends on your level. And again, challenge your body. If all you can do is 5 minutes on that stationary bike that has been in the basement collecting clothes all these years, now you can try and find a way you can do it 5 minutes every day, or 5 minutes 3 times a week. That's perfect. All right. That is a great start. Next week, try 7 minutes 3 times a week. The week after that, try 10 minutes. These are all small steps of change that we can manage. Even if it takes a year to get to 180 minutes a week, it's better than never getting there. Or if you aren't able to get there, you're still exercising daily and actively protecting your brain, improving your quality of life, maintaining your mobility and your movement for longer. So even if we don't get to 180 minutes, you're still doing a lot better than you were yesterday, right? One thing to keep in mind is never get to the point of pushing yourself or hurting yourself, okay? Because if you hurt yourself during your exercise, you'll stop moving. And that is worse by far than taking a little bit longer to get to your goals, okay? If you keep taking small steps to get to your goal, you will find that an easier path to get there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying easy. I'm just saying easier than trying to do it all at once. This small step strategy can actually be adapted to any part of improving your quality of life, how you eat, the amount of fluid you take in, and your sleep hygiene. Small step strategies can be used to manage anxiety, increase your socialization, building that perfect backyard landscaping, or finishing that beautiful piece of artwork. Small steps will really help you get to any goal you have in mind. So anytime you are actually faced with that mountain, start by picking up a pebble. And if that rock you face is still too big to move, break it down into smaller stones, and that mountain will move. Thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful for you.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that. There was a lot of pieces there that really resonated with me, and I'm sure with a lot of the audience. And what I really appreciated was the question you asked, what is a challenge for you, and how those challenges can be different for everyone, right? Some people, it might be the triathlon, and others, it might be even walking the hallway, right? So I thought that was a really impactful statement. For those that are watching and looking to start making some of those small steps, and I know for a lot of people I hear it's just hard to know what that is or how to go about that. And you, with your healthcare experience, I'm wondering if you might be able to share, the multidisciplinary healthcare team, whether it's nutritionists or physiotherapists or occupational therapists, who might be a good idea for people to maybe use and reach out to, get referrals to, that might also be able to help them make some of these small steps?
Definitely. When it comes down to it, we do have our full multidisciplinary team, and a team is really what you need to kind of work in this journey and kind of optimize the situation. Your physiotherapist, honestly, is a really great start to trying to learn what exercises you can do now, different balance types of exercises, things that are safe within the parameters that you're at right now. And then through with it, working with your physiotherapist, you can find smaller steps to kind of increase that exercise to try and make it as safe as possible, as well as challenging as possible. Your occupational therapist actually is another tool that you can use, another person, another resource that can be very helpful to, for example, make sure that you have safe things in your house, whether it be maybe a railing down the hallway, something to grab onto as you're trying to walk down the hallway safely, things to help you get in and out of bed a little bit easier, devices and assistive things that can be very helpful that way as well. Depending on what your goals are, yes, a dietitian might be the right way, because it might be along the lines of, we're losing too much weight, we need to try and optimize it and try and stabilize the weight, working with the dietitian to kind of help change little things to stabilize things, right? There's a lot of different team members that are there that can help you through the journey to find those small steps. So honestly, I would really source out who can be on your team, especially physiotherapy and occupational therapy. There's also speech language pathology, social work, whatever the case is, whatever your goals are, generally there are some resources and people out there that can be very helpful for it.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I know, given the last year and a half that we have all gone through and are still living through, I know it's been especially challenging given that we haven't been meeting in person. We've been really impressed by all the virtual offerings. So people can learn to dance online and chair yoga and exercise and boxing. And have you noticed, for those that have sort of chosen to partake in those virtual exercise classes and things with the patients that you see at your clinic, have you seen a benefit for those folks?
Definitely. This whole past year and a half has been very, very challenging. And people with Parkinson's really like to be isolated. We've really enjoyed kind of being in our little bubble and not really venturing out. So having people who have taken part in those online exercise opportunities have really done a lot better, and they have continued to maintain their physical fitness. For those individuals who did not participate in those, you start to notice that they're struggling a lot more, they're needing more resources, they're needing more medications, whatever the case is. They're not doing as well as the ones who did partake in those different exercise courses. And the best thing that we have found, I mean, you have to find silver lining in everything, right? But the one thing that we have found definitely with this pandemic is that we have started to really utilize and really kind of optimize some of those online resources that are possible. And we have people who are going across the country virtually with different exercise groups or different online resources. We have people here in Winnipeg taking the Toronto dancing online, or other people who are even going to the States or throughout Canada, Alberta. And it's one of those things that is fantastic. It's been a very good opportunity. So actually, if we're going to look at the honest positive component of this, we've had people who are in their more rural settings who can't get or have never had access to an exercise group or a support group physically, are now actually partaking online, which has been incredible, and a real open time frame, a little area that we can really open up to a lot of different areas throughout the country. So it's actually been some silver lining things, some really actually good things that's kind of happened with it. But yes, if you're going to take part, the online exercise groups was an incredibly great silver lining, especially when all of the gyms closed down. You weren't able to walk with your friends or whatever the case is. Because of the pandemic, this has been a very good outlet for people to kind of use as well.
I think that's great, Kelly. I think you highlighted some great things there. And for those that are watching, it's never too late to start. And I know the fact that you're on this webinar shows that you're able to get on successfully. And in our resources that we're going to share out post-webinar, I will also send some information with an organization that we've partnered here at Parkinson Canada. It's called Connected Canadians. And they actually offer free support, online support to Canadians who are seniors, and helping them learn how to use email, get on Zoom calls, partake in virtual classes. So I will make sure we have that link for our audience. So if you're ready to take that little step and you just aren't maybe confident in your computer or tech skills, please know there are wonderful supports out there, and we will make sure to connect you with them. And that's great. And so I think finally, Kelly, we have a lot of people who are joining us today that are care partners, so that loving somebody who lives with Parkinson's. How important do you think it is for it to be a partnered approach in terms of making these small steps?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I mean, it's so difficult to do this only on your own. And having somebody work with you really improves your chances of these small steps making huge changes with it. And not only that, actually, research has shown that a care partner who also exercises, that person living with Parkinson's has a better quality of life as well. So keep in mind that you're not just doing this for you, but you're doing this for the person you're caring for as well. And it's so important to kind of have that partnership within it, because when you do it together, everybody's more likely to do these different changes and these small changes to kind of improve quality of life for both partners. So yeah, definitely the care partner taking part in exercise and doing these small changes, it makes a huge world of a difference for people.
That's great. Well, Kelly, I just think I want to say thank you on behalf of everyone for just sharing your knowledge. I know you've got years of experience working with our Parkinson community here in Canada, and we just are so thankful to have you as a resource, and very much appreciate you taking the time today to share with our audience, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
There. And I realize we're over a little bit on our 1 hour webinar, and sometimes it's so hard when you have so many amazing people who are sharing their experiences to get everybody in on that 1 hour. So I thank all of you that have hung on for the extra 8 minutes. And again, I know I alluded a few times during the webinar, I will be sending out a post-webinar email within the next 7 days. And on that, we'll have the recording of this. So you're welcome to watch it again or share with any friends or family. And we'll have a pretty extensive resource list on that email. So everything that we've mentioned during our webinar today, we will include the links. And we're really excited at what you'll see on there as well. We've got some really exciting things happening on our Parkinson Canada webpage, www.parkinson.ca. And on that, we have something called our exercise and wellness page under our resource section. I will include the link for that. I encourage everyone to check it out. We've got some great resources there for those that are looking to incorporate some exercise and wellness components into their own life. And lastly, before we say goodbye, we're really excited here at Parkinson Canada. We're going to be, for the first time ever, offering a virtual art exhibition for the month of August. So we realize that not many of us are venturing off to art galleries currently. So we thought a virtual opportunity to explore work by those living with Parkinson's, as well as their family members and care partners. So please look for an email from me soon for a registration. We're going to do an opening ceremony on August the 4th, and the artwork will be available to view up until the end, August 31st. So please look for some more information on that. And if anyone's watching who has some artwork that they'd like to display, please follow up on the email that I send out, and we'd love to be able to offer that. So on behalf of everyone here at Parkinson Canada, we just thank you for joining us today. We thank all the guest speakers today for sharing their experiences and their words of encouragement, and all of you for taking the time to join us. We thoroughly appreciate it. So have a wonderful day, everyone.